WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From the WCCO Television newsrooms in the Twin Cities and Washington, D.C., this is the 10 p.m. Report. With Dave Moore, Pat Miles, Skip Loescher, Mike Fairborn, Mark Rosen, and tonight's special report.
I'm Bill Carlson. The newest Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi, opens this week. We'll have a profile of creator George Lucas.
Good evening, everyone.
It is called Return of the Jedi, and it portends to be the movie phenomena of the summer. Hundreds of members of the local press and special guests preview the third in the Star Wars trilogy tonight in downtown Minneapolis. The public will get its chance on Wednesday. Entertainment reporter Bill Carlson offers this advance look.
Looks kind of like a picture from the Lucas family album, the most successful movie-making family in the history of the industry. Time magazine has called the patriarch of the family, George Lucas, the Walt Disney of the 70s and 80s. Together, he and his close friend Steven Spielberg have produced the 5 most successful films of all time. The first 2 pictures in the middle Star Wars trilogy have grossed nearly $2/3 of $1 billion at the box office worldwide and have sold over $2 billion worth of Star Wars-related merchandise. Yet George Lucas, this movie magnate, this phenomenon, has become known as something of a Howard Hughes, immensely successful but shy, and more than willing to allow others to speak for him.
George avoids the press and maybe will only give into 2 or 3 articles every picture he does.
And usually only articles, too. Seldom television or broadcast or any other media.
I don't ever remember George being on television.
And though evidence of his success is all around us, Lucas is preoccupied with living up to his fans' expectations.
And usually their expectations are even higher than they were in the last film. They may, over the last couple of years, not having seen the most previous film, even think the last one was better than it may have been. And I think we've delivered this time.
This time is, of course, the Return of the Jedi, perhaps the most eagerly awaited motion picture of the decade. The concluding chapter in the middle Star Wars trilogy, this film was also the most difficult in preparation.
12, 13, 14-hour days, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, to make this picture ready and make it as good as we think it is. It's a huge undertaking. In the first 2 pictures, we had approximately 450 special effects. In Return of the Jedi, we have over 900.
As a result of this great success, George Lucas has become an immensely wealthy man and has shared that success with those who were with him when he had nothing, and has made millionaires of several of them.
Yes, he has, beginning with American Graffiti, and more American Graffiti, and the 3 Star Wars pictures, and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm very happy with my lot in life. I'm real happy that the success of Star Wars afforded me the opportunity to work, which for me was the whole thing as an actor.
I don't think I've changed drastically, but I was very young, and I guess I still am. I got nicer furniture now.
I'm thrilled. I'm overwhelmed, and I'm a very lucky young man, I think.
Earlier, we alluded to the end of the middle trilogy of Star Wars. Will that triple trilogy be completed?
That's a good question. I can only answer it by saying over the past couple of 3 years, all we've been thinking about, all we can concentrate on a daily basis is this picture and no other picture. Yeah, I think there's a 50-50 chance that the others will be made.
Meanwhile, local theater owners and managers who have collectively put up in excess of $1 million guarantee for 7 theaters, that's cash up front, for the right to play the picture, are also looking forward to its premiere eagerly.
Do you have any question in your mind that you're going to come out ahead on this?
None whatsoever. I am quite certain that we should earn that within 5 or 6 weeks.
And that's confidence. Tomorrow, we'll travel to Marin County, California, and visit with 2 former Minnesotans responsible for developing some of the special effects at George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic. With photographer Kent Westberg, Bill Carlson, WCCO Television News in the Twin Cities.
Mark Rosen up next on the sports scene.
Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From the WCCO Television newsrooms in the Twin Cities and Washington, D.C., this is the 10 p.m. Report. With Dave Moore, Pat Miles, Skip Loescher, Mike Fairborn, Mark Rosen, and tonight's special report.
I'm Bill Carlson. On the eve of the opening of The Return of the Jedi, we'll meet two former Minnesotans who helped create those very special effects.
Attributed to The Return of the Jedi. They are special effects artists Peter Stoltz and Richard Edlund.
Throughout most of motion picture history, this area of Southern California around Hollywood has become known as the film capital of the world. But now one of the most successful of the young filmmakers, George Lucas, has moved his headquarters 400 miles to the north, here in Marin County, just across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. Lucasfilm has established a group of professional tinkerers, as it were, who have gotten into the habit of making very successful motion pictures.
The minute you walk through the door after you've been hired, the first thing you do is sign a secrecy act. And everything from then on, you're kind of sworn to. It serves as a convenience in a way, because you can just say, well, I'm sworn to secrecy, I can't really talk about it.
Special effects, a time-consuming, often tedious sort of work. In the example we're watching, developing laser effects.
We'll get a storyboard that's, say, 57 frames, 24 frames a second, a little over 2 seconds, and you'll spend 8, 12 hours shooting those 57 frames.
Every moment of film is regarded with respect. While filming this scene in London, George Lucas noticed that the character Nine Nim with Billy D. Williams was on the screen too long without animation.
The film wasn't even out of the camera, and they realized that the eyes had to blink. And George came up to me and said, "Stuart, could you make the eyes blink?"
Well, of course he could, but it took a 2-week round trip London to California to improve this 30-second piece of film with the blink. Richard Edlund has 3 Academy Awards as a result of his work with Lucas, and he explained to us how this effect in Return of the Jedi was accomplished.
Well, actually, the background was photographed at 1 frame a second with a fellow with a device called a Steadicam, which holds the camera very steady and it gyro stabilizes. And the fellow was very carefully walking along with the camera at 1 frame a second. Then we projected at 24 frames a second. It looks like he's going 50 miles an hour.
And though we're all excited by the finished product, Edlund admits,
well, it's very boring to watch us create these scenes because it takes sometimes months to do a shot. It's very tedious work, and the audience is not aware that we spend 2 years creating 14, 15, maybe 20 minutes of film.
May the Force be with us.
With photographer Kent Westberg, Bill Carlson, WCCO Television News, near San Francisco.
Another hit parade for the Twins in Baltimore tonight. Mark Rosen with the highlights in a moment.
Well, the cash registers are ringing at movie theaters across the country tonight with the premiere of The Return of the Jedi. In tonight's special report, Bill Carlson examines where the money is going.
All indications point to the most successful opening day in motion picture history, and there are a lot of people and many different businesses looking at those results. As you might imagine, the opportunity to show Return of the Jedi doesn't come easy. 20th Century Fox and Lucasfilm followed a standard bidding procedure with some non-typical elements.
I'm sure they received more bids on this particular picture than probably any other feature that has ever been released.
For the whole Twin City area, what is the size of the guarantee involved?
Well, the total guarantee, I can't give you any specifics, but the total guarantee was in excess of $1 million.
That's real money.
Paid 2 weeks in advance before the picture opens.
The bids, which totaled over $1 million, were made by the operators of 7 individual theaters in the Twin Cities, who expect to make those guarantees by a contract formula Lou outlined for us. Taking a $40,000 weekly gross as an example, and some theaters are expected to more than double that, we subtract the allowed theater expenses, in this case $5,000, and arrive at a net of $35,000. By contract, 20th Century Fox gets 90%, the exhibitor 10%. In this case, the Fox income for the week would be $31,500, the theater $3,500 plus expenses. And remember, some theaters are expected to double those figures. So where does the theater owner pick up enough to stay in operation? That's it, the concession stand, where a solid operation can gross up to $10,000 per week minus expenses.
Without the concessions, I grant you very few theaters would still be open.
Now, another area where Twin City businesses will share in the Jedi bonanza, the licensing and merchandising of Star Wars products, all the way from an operating Darth Vader speakerphone through records, clothing, food, and, of course, toys, where the Twin Cities' own General Mills is a leader.
For the General Mills toy companies, for example, that includes Parker Brothers, Fundimensions, and Kenner, the total Star Wars sale is in excess of $100 million per year. We've sold well over 100 million of the small action figures since 1978, and really a total of about 150 million Star Wars toys total since this phenomenon began. When Lucas came to us back in '77, and after a couple of 3 toy companies had turned him down, and we said, it really doesn't matter if the movie is a success or not. These are toys.
What do you think those people are doing today who turned him down?
I don't know. Maybe they're looking for jobs in some other industry. I think that George Lucas is probably the world's greatest toy inventor.
Whether that particular title is true or not, you'll find entrepreneurs in several areas of endeavor willing to concede that indeed there is something very special about George Lucas, creator of the Star Wars phenomenon. With photographer Kent Westberg, Bill Carlson, WCCO Television News, Twin Cities.
Mark Rosen is up next with tonight's sports scene.